Imagine for a moment that the very foundations of your reality, the bedrock beliefs that shape every decision you make, every comfort you cling to, were nothing more than an elaborate illusion. What if the most profound truths you hold dear were actually just shadows dancing on a wall, and the moment you glimpsed the light, you would be faced with a choice? Would you embrace the searing, disorienting brilliance of truth, or would you retreat into the familiar, comforting darkness of the lie, even if you knew it was false? This isn't a hypothetical thought experiment from a modern philosopher. It's a question as old as civilization itself, laid bare by Plato's Allegory of the cave, a story that reveals why, even today, you often choose the comfortable lie. Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, crafted this powerful allegory, a story with a hidden meaning, to help us understand not just our world, but who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. It's perhaps the most famous metaphor, analogy, or allegory in all of Western thought, a narrative framework that has echoed through millennia, shaping everything from philosophy to religion. So, what exactly is this cave, and what does it tell us about ourselves? Picture a deep cave far beneath the earth. Inside, there are a million prisoners chained to the floor, their necks shackled so tightly they cannot move their heads. They can only stare straight ahead at a blank wall in front of them. Behind them, a great fire burns, casting flickering light. And between the fire and the prisoners, there are people, puppeteers. We might call them, holding up cardboard figures, like rats or birds or just random shapes. The fire projects the shadows of these figures onto the wall in front of the prisoners. These chained individuals have spent their entire lives in this position, seeing nothing but these shadows. For them, these moving shapes are reality itself. They don't know any better. They simply believe that what they see on the wall is the entirety of existence. Can you imagine a more complete form of ignorance, where your entire world is a two-dimensional projection? Now imagine that one of these prisoners somehow breaks free. This is the pivotal moment, the beginning of a journey from ignorance to understanding. The newly freed prisoner turns around and for the first time sees the fire. The light is painful, it burns his eyes, unaccustomed to such brightness. He stumbles, perhaps falls, disoriented by this new, intense sensation. But slowly, painstakingly, he begins to adapt. He sees the puppeteers, the figures, and starts to understand that what he once thought was real, the shadows on the wall, were merely imitations, projections of something else. This is already a profound shift, isn't it? To realize your entire life has been a misunderstanding. But the journey doesn't stop there. He continues his arduous ascent out of the cave, towards the mouth where true sunlight streams in. The transition is agonizing. His eyes, so long accustomed to the dim, flickering light of the fire, are seared by the sun's brilliance. It's like being burned alive, the sources tell us. At first, all he can do is stare at the ground, seeing only reflections in puddles of water. But gradually, patiently, his eyes adjust. He starts to see the world around him, the trees, the sky, the true forms of things, not just their fleeting shadows. And then, with immense courage, he looks up. He sees the sun itself. This is the ultimate revelation. The sun, in Plato's philosophy, represents the form of the good, the ultimate source of everything, the wellspring of all truth. It's the origin of concepts like reason, beauty, truth, and justice, which structure the entire universe. Our world, the one we perceive with our senses, is merely an imitation, a shadow, a lesser copy of this higher, eternal, and unchanging reality. When the prisoner sees the sun, he fully understands the truth of the world for the first time. It is a beauty so profound, a revelation so complete, that it is beyond human language to describe. How do you articulate pure, absolute truth when your entire vocabulary was built on shadows? At this point, a powerful emotion seizes him, regret. He remembers his friends, still chained in the darkness of the cave, still believing the shadows are real. He feels immense pity for them. Despite loving his newfound understanding, his experience of the true world, he swears he will venture back into the cave. His purpose is clear: to show his friends the truth, to tell them they have been living a lie all their lives. It's a heroic, selfless act, driven by compassion and a burning desire to share enlightenment. But what happens when a truth-teller returns to a world comfortable with its lies? He goes back down into the cave, but now his eyes, accustomed to the sun's brilliance, are useless in the dark. He stumbles, falls, and hurts himself, just as he did on his way out. He's disoriented, clumsy, and ineffective in the very environment he once called home. He approaches the prisoners, eager to share his revelation, to explain the truth. But when they ask him to describe what it's like outside, he can't. He has no human language to convey the profound, ineffable truth he experienced. His words fail him because the truth he saw is simply too vast, too different from anything they've ever known. The prisoners, who have never seen anything but shadows, listen to him stumble and fall, to his inarticulate attempts to describe a world they can't even conceive. They are utterly convinced he is an idiot, insane, a clown. They refuse to follow him. Why would they trust someone so seemingly inept, someone whose words make no sense, who can't even navigate their familiar darkness? He insists on revealing the truth, on trying to break them free from their comfortable illusions. And what is the ultimate consequence of this insistence? They kill him. They silence the truth-teller because his message threatens their entire reality, their comfortable lie. This isn't just an ancient Greek story. It's a blueprint for understanding human patterns that repeat throughout history. This allegory, the sources tell us, is profoundly powerful for several reasons. Firstly, it redeems the reputation of Socrates, Plato's own teacher, who was despised and laughed at by the Athenians in his time. Plato presents Socrates as the philosopher who saw the truth, the one who tried to enlighten his fellow citizens, and was condemned to death for it. We now celebrate Socrates as the greatest philosopher, the first philosopher, because this allegory reframes his life and death as a martyrdom for truth. Are we not still quick to dismiss those who challenge our deeply held beliefs as insane or foolish? Secondly, the allegory becomes so powerful that, in the imagination of Christians, Socrates becomes Jesus. Jesus, too, was a truth-teller, sent by God to reveal the truth to the world. And because humanity feared that truth, we killed him. The crucifixion of Jesus, the sources reveal, is essentially a reimagining of Plato's allegory of the cave. It's the same story. A divine being, or a philosopher with divine insight, brings truth to a world comfortable in its ignorance, and is met with rejection and death. This is why the allegory forms the intellectual framework for Christianity, providing a philosophical lens through which to understand its core narrative. Doesn't this pattern of rejecting inconvenient truths still echo in our modern discourse, where messengers of unwelcome facts are often demonized? This allegory helps us understand what it means to be human and the human condition, because it speaks to the fundamental questions embedded in our hearts and souls. Where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? The form of the good, the sun, is the source of all truth, providing a metaphysical understanding of reality. Everything we see and experience in our material world is but an imitation, a shadow, of a higher, eternal, immutable world of perfect forms. For Plato, even great artwork, like the Mona Lisa, would be a falsity, an illusion, a shadow that distracts us from the true mind of God, which is found in mathematics, not in imitations of beauty. Is it not easier to appreciate a beautiful painting than to grapple with abstract mathematical truths? The core reason we choose the comfortable lie, even when presented with a glimpse of truth, is that no one likes to be told they're wrong. The sources explicitly state this as a reason for Socrates' condemnation. Our beliefs, the things we hold to be true, are not abstract concepts. Belief, the source material explains, is your soul, your heart, what your soul aspires to. For most of human history, religious traditions believed the soul was divine, removed from the material. The Kabbalah, a mystical tradition, even describes the soul as having an almost sexual urge that drives it to action. When you tell someone their reality is a lie, you are not just attacking an idea, you are assaulting their soul, their very identity, the core of what drives them. Is it any wonder, then, that people react with such ferocity when their deepest convictions are challenged? Consider Socrates' method, what's called a Socratic dialogue. He would take a statement believed to be fundamentally and inherently true, like the earth is a sphere. Then he would methodologically expose the flaws in that statement. He'd ask, what is a sphere? Explain it. Give an example. How do you know the earth is a sphere if you cannot hold it in your hand like a ball? He would continue questioning, slowly dismantling the certainty of the statement, revealing the ignorance beneath the belief. This process is painful because it forces you to confront the limits of your knowledge, the fragility of your truth. The escaped prisoner returning to the cave, attempting to describe a reality beyond their comprehension, is essentially engaging in a form of Socratic dialogue, and the outcome is tragically the same. The predictive history lens here is stark. This isn't just a story about ancient Athens or early Christianity. It's a profound insight into human nature that repeats itself endlessly. We are born with a deep-seated need for certainty, for answers to those three fundamental questions: where we came from, why we are here, and where we are going. When a system of shadows, a comfortable lie, provides those answers, however incomplete or distorted, it becomes our reality. To challenge it is to introduce chaos, pain, and disorientation. The truth, like the sun, can burn. It requires adaptation, effort, and the courage to endure profound discomfort. It means admitting you were wrong, that your entire life was based on an illusion, and that, for most people, is simply too high a price to pay. The choice, then, isn't always about malice or stupidity. It's about a deeply human preference for comfort over discomfort, certainty over confusion, and the familiar narrative over the terrifying, ineffable unknown. You choose the comfortable lie because the truth demands a transformation of your entire being, a painful recalibration of your senses and your soul. It's a choice made not just by the prisoners in Plato's cave, but by people throughout history and by you. Perhaps every single day, when faced with the searing brilliance of a truth that threatens to dismantle your cherished shadows.